This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going back to 1936, back right before the war, World War II, where there was fighting going on and shooting and all sorts of things. Today we are in Germany and we are cooperatively going to be trying to finish plots to assassinate Hitler in Black Orchestra. This is from Game Salute. It takes up to 2 hours to play. Let me show you how it's played and I'll see you on the other side. In Black Orchestra, you'll be going all over Europe, including Germany, to try to assassinate Hitler together in a cooperative manner. There's plenty of characters to choose from, and each one of them has some special abilities. Everyone starts with sort of a timid amount of motivation and medium suspicion. So over the course of the game, you're trying to keep your suspicion low, but you're trying to raise your motivation to the point where you're at least committed, where you can enact plot cards to try to assassinate Hitler. And then they get even better when they're zealous. And there's also special abilities that each character gets that are different as soon as you get up to positive. So you want your motivation up, your suspicion down. Now how the game works is each player has a standardized turn, and at the beginning of that turn you check to see if Hitler or any of his compadres are in the same spot as you. If so, something bad will happen, like you might have to discard a card or raise your suspicion, or do a lot. It's just negative things depending on who's on you there. But if not, you then could take up to 3 actions. One of the actions you could do is you can move around. You can move one space that's anywhere that's tied by a dotted line. But if you're in Berlin, you can go to any of these orange spots in Berlin, no matter how far they are from one action. Also, you can only move into certain areas as you're in certain phases of the game. So for example, this one we couldn't get to until the 3rd phase of the game, so it will be closed off for us until then. And as you can see up in the top right there, Stockholm has a 4 on it, which means you can't get there until you're at least in the 4th sort of phase of the game there, and this goes all the way up to 7. One thing you can do is conspire. Once per turn, you can try to conspire. Each one of these dice is an action. If you get a number, that's how many additional actions you get this turn. So let's say I had already moved once, I'd used one of mine. I used my last 2 actions to roll these 2 dice. I get 2 more movements, and this goes up in the descent track. If this gets full with bullseyes, which is you get 2 out of 6 chance, 1/3 to get there, you can basically gain motivation, or you can decrease Hitler's, basically his military power. And the Hitler's military power will be going up and down through the course of the game, and however high it is, that's how many shots you'll need to be in the right spot at the right time. I'll get more to that later, but the less powerful it is, obviously the easier it will be to assassinate Hitler. And there's different ways to start. This is standard difficulty. Easy would be starting on 2, and difficulty, real difficult would be starting on 4. Now for one of your 3 actions, you can also draw one of these cards, and they do different things. Like, for example, you might lower your suspicion by 1. Or you might be able to, take 1 additional turn this turn. Sometimes there'll be restricted cards, which give you very powerful abilities, like moving Hitler up to 3 spaces, or moving you or one of your teammates up to 3 spaces. But later on, some event cards that we'll go over later will have some sort of raids, and it can basically allow you to be arrested a little bit more easily. And then we have plot cards, which is how you're going to end up trying to kill Hitler towards at some point in the game. And it will say, like, for example, the required. Hitler has to be on a stage 1 or 2 spot on the board. You have to be in the same spot as Hitler, and you basically have to be committed or zealous. And we talked about this. Of course, anytime you do a plot card, you have to be in one of the top 2 things there, working that up over the course of the game. But optional elements. Now, you get 1 die if you meet all these 3 requirements, and then there's other requirements here. Some characters are specific types of characters. So if you look at that word there that I will not try to pronounce. So one of these characters, that is one of your teammates, it can be there for an optional extra die. Weapons. Some of the things that you'll be collecting over the board are weapons. And in this case, you can have multiples of those. Each one of those is worth a die, and you might need a signature. So for example, if you did have a signature and you had a weapon that you had picked up earlier, and you were with this character, essentially you would get up to 4 dice here. Again, if you had multiple weapons, you'd get more dice. So you could have 4 dice to try to assassinate Hitler if you were, did all these requirements. So let's say all that was true, so I would have gotten 4 dice. I'm at least committed, but I have high suspicion. And let's say Hitler's thing was here. I would need to get 3 bullseyes from this, and have less than one of these symbols here. So if I had rolled these here, I would have gotten 1, it wouldn't have happened, but one of these is there. Now, if I had rolled something like this, it wouldn't have happened because I needed 3 of those to assassinate Hitler. But it didn't go detected, so I could keep my plot card. But if in this case I had rolled at least one of these, then essentially it would have been detected, this would have been discarded, and I would have been sent to prison. So you can see, having your suspicion lower, you need to roll more of those in order to be detected and arrested. So you want your suspicion low. It's easier to get detected if it's high, and it's always hard to kill Hitler, really, even if you have a lot of dice, which sometimes is even hard to get in itself. And that's sort of how a plot enacts. And when you get arrested, you end up going to the prison here, and there's ways that you can get broken out, and there's lots of other things that go around there, but essentially you're going to be there until someone can get you out, or you can get yourself out, and it's not necessarily a good thing for you. And when you're arrested and it's your turn, you'd have to discard all those restricted cards that I showed you. Then you'd also have to discard any one non-restricted for every one restricted you did, and then you'd roll a die and see, depending on how motivated you are. It would depend on what you'd roll and whether you resist interrogation or not. If you do get interrogated, you pull up one of these cards. Basically, there'll be multiple choices for you to choose. You can't tell any of the other players what's going on, but you just have to choose one and then read it aloud. Usually none of them are good. All 3 of them are bad, but you got to decide which of the 3 happens. Then this card ends up going away. But that's a way that happens when you're arrested. Now, things you can do when you're at a spot. When you get to a spot, you will flip it up. It will actually show the item. You can do another action to take this item and place it on your card. There's a certain amount of items that you can get. Also, once those are gone, there's certain things here that says, hey, look, if Hitler's present, -2 suspicion for you only. And different ones do different things. A lot of them have to do with bringing your suspicion down and things like that. There's also places where you can actually deliver things to help yourselves out. Also, if you're in a spot with somebody else, you can give each other cards, you can give each other some of these tiles, so you might be able to give someone a weapon while they're there, because they might need it for their plot. But for example, let's say I went here and I had the badge. It's an item. I could discard it out of the game to lose my suspicion by 2, reduce it. So there's different places that you can drop off certain things, but those are the things you also need for the plot. So you're trying to figure out which ones I'm going to use to lower my suspicion, which ones do I need for the plots, and so on and so forth. And as we mentioned, as you get up to a certain amount of motivation, you get special abilities, and they're all different. Like, for example, as an action, either move 2 spaces or move another compadre 1 space. Or as an action, you can discard any item to lower suspicion of any one of your guys by 1. So different things that you can do there for an action. Now, after each player has taken their 3 actions, you'll pull over an event card for whatever phase in the game you're in, and they do different things. Like, for example, this one says, hey, move Hitler and all their deputies to that place. Or it might say, raise all conspirators' suspicion by 1. Or it might say, hey, increase the military support for Hitler by 1, and then remove the next 2 stage 1 event cards. Now, this is a key event. It goes off to the side because some events after that says, hey, if there's already a key event, you can just discard this card and then get a new one. Otherwise, you'd increase, the Hitler's military, his strength, and then you move Hitler to Munich, for example. So these are different cards that pretty much most all of them are very bad, and they happen between each player's turn. And so in general, that's how the game's played. Here's some of the different plots that you could say. There's plenty of them in the game, but like this one, Lone Gunman. You got to be all the way up on your motivation to zealous. You got to be in the same spot. And there's different things. You can have those people. You need weapons. And if you have a badge, you can roll 1 more of those badge symbols. Different things just to show you how some of the different plots work. You can pause here and look at some of these if you'd like. And again, either you're going to win by assassinating Hitler through one of the plots, or you're all going to lose by all being arrested at the same time, or not being able to resolve an event card, or in the 7th phase, there's a card documents located, and at that point, the game would end and you lose. All right, well, there is Black Orchestra. I was interested in this because A, I love cooperative games. B, I love historical games, and so this one was right up my alley. There's a lot to like about this game, and there's also some things I didn't like about this game. The game is going to be very polarizing, if not even just because of the theme of what's going on, but even because of the gameplay and how things work. Now, I'm going to just come out and say that if you're the type of player that loves games that tell stories, not storytelling games, but games that as you're playing them, things happen that you'll remember, not only at the end of the game, but nights, weeks, maybe even years later, you'll be discussing certain things that happened, even if they were things of you failing terribly. If you're more about the experience and you're more about the story after the game, this is probably going to be one that you're absolutely going to love. However, if you are a person who wants to play a game where there's not a lot of luck involved, where you feel very vested into the process of the game, you can kind of control the outcome of it, and you don't really care about the stories afterwards, but you really just want to be able to play a strategy and be able to keep to that strategy, then this probably is not the game with you. Because what I found with this game is it's very thematic. It's very, the cards, everything that happens, you've got to keep your suspicion down low. You've got to get your motivations up high enough to want to kill Hitler. But Hitler's moving around and his army's getting stronger, and you're trying to get it weaker, and it's getting stronger. And there's all these three main variables that you're playing with in this game. Hitler's military, the motivation, and the suspicion. Now, the motivation and the suspicion are things that you have a pretty good handle on how to get through. There's certain items that you'll want to drop off, and you do that, and hey, you've done a mission, and your suspicion goes down because you look like you're one of them, one of the Germans. It's very thematic, and I love that. In certain plots, the lone gunman has to be in the same spot as Hitler, but different things help you, and everything in this game is very thematic, and I love that aspect of it. You have too much suspicion, you're gonna go to jail. But the thing in this game is that it has this interesting bell curve where at the beginning of the game, the army isn't that strong. If you can rush and get the right things and get the right people in the right spots and have Hitler in the right spot, you've got not a decent chance. This game is very hard, but you have, better than in the middle of the game, a chance to kill him. So one game, we killed him in 30 minutes. But most of the time we get our clocks cleaned. So what happens is this bell curve where in the beginning of the game his military isn't quite strong enough. In the middle it gets very strong, and at the end it starts to peel off again. So you could be playing this game for 30 minutes or you could be playing it for 2 hours. That's a big stretch. Also, a lot of it just comes down to the luck of the roll. It's really hard to get enough dice. Even on the ones that give you like the little star where you can have multiple weapons, for example, and every extra weapon you get a star. Maybe you'll roll 4 dice. But if his army is 4 or higher, there's no way you're going to get that because it's only 1 in 3 chance for each die to do it. So you'll roll 3 dice, you're going to statistically get 1 of those. So you're going to need a lot of luck to win this game. You'll be prepping to get a perfect plot. You'll have the right people in the right spot. Hitler will be in the right spot. An event will come up and he'll move. And party's going to go, oh man, that was so thematic. It's so tense. We thought we had him and he moved. It's probably what it would have felt like in real life. So I think they did a great aspect of making this roller coaster of emotions of getting close, we're close, let's take the shot, oh, we missed. There's a lot of that going on. So if you like those stories, you're going to love this game. If you get fed up with that type of thing and you don't want a 2-hour game to come down to literally a dice chuck, then this is a game you want to stay away from. But either way, I think it does things very well. I enjoyed the experience. It was just a little too long sometimes for me. And for a game that's that long, for me personally, I don't like it to come down to just a dice roll. You can control the suspicion and the motivation quite decently, but the military is that last one that you didn't have quite as much control over. Sure, you can roll a dice for dissent, but it's a lot harder to do. I wish there was a little bit more control, but I think they nailed it on what they were trying to do, and that's Black Orchestra.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.